The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And now another big change in the administration. John Phelan, he has been fired as the Navy Secretary, apparently after months of tensions between he and Defense Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. This, of course, is an interesting time to see the Navy Secretary removed. Of course, in the middle of a major naval blockade like we've never seen before that's taking place in the Strait of Hormuz with Iran. And, of course, big developments today with the word that Iran has seized two ships. These two, like, ragtag pirate gunboats came upon major tankers. They apparently attacked three of them, and they seized two of them. So there's a lot to talk about tonight on the Rita Cosby Show. Where is this going? Do you think you see an end in sight with the Iran war, and how important is it to hurry up, finish the job, and then come back to domestic issues? I contend both are equally important. There are some people, as you guys know out there, where they're like, okay, we shouldn't even go in, or it's time to move out. I don't agree with that. I think you go in, you need to decimate the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. There is no gray. You need to pound them into a pile of dust, each and every one of them, and you need to make Iran come to the table, pleading to the table if that's what it takes. And we also know that President Trump has not changed his red line in all of this. And in fact, here is Caroline Leavitt at the White House not that long ago saying President Trump is steadfast on his goal, and that's a good thing for America.
As far as the formal negotiations, humanitarian issues are of a great concern to this president. But with respect to the negotiations that are ongoing, he's made his red lines very clear. Iran could never obtain a nuclear bomb to threaten the United States and our allies, and they must turn over the enriched uranium that's in their possession. While it is very far into the ground, thanks to the success of Operation Midnight Hammer, it's important to the president that they hand that enriched uranium over. He's made that quite clear to them. And now we're waiting to hear back from the Iranian regime. The fact that they cannot send a unified message yet, which is why the president decided to extend the ceasefire, just shows how effective Operation Epic Fury truly was, because there's a lot of internal division over there. The president understands that, and so we await their response.
So President Trump waiting to see if Iran can get its act together. In the meantime, America can beef up its military assets. It's a win-win. What did you think that, like, you'd get rid of the Iranian regime in like 5 minutes? It was never going to happen, but it may very well happen in a matter of months. And that's the good news. I'm not saying months from now. I'm saying months total. So there's a very good chance that we can see this wrapped up very, very soon. It could even be a matter of days. I can tell you, knowing President Trump, he is not going to want to wait around that long. He realizes that he knows Iran is just buying time. And in the meantime, he is keeping his assets there, and he's waiting for the right moment to strike. I was listening to my friend General Keith Kellogg not that long ago, and General Kellogg, his comments were essentially, you know what, maybe it's just kind of time to say, sorry, we tried our best. Now time to take Karg Island, where 93% of Iran's oil exports come from. He said it is time to get tough, like Dirty Harry, make my day. Maybe that's the best advice, because these people do not understand. These people are ruthless. They're maniacal. They're apparently starting executions, even though they did put a pause on the 8 women, supposedly. They told President Trump, we're not going to execute these 8 women. How nice of them. I mean, these people are monsters, and it's time to treat them like the monsters and pariah of the world that they truly, truly are. And then we can come home. And then all these like mamsy-pamsy people that have said, oh, Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing, they'll be eating crow. And then he can focus on domestic issues. I'm sure that gas prices will come down very soon. And then it will be on the way to the midterms. Speaking of which, today, even with all this crazy uncertainty, did you see the markets? The markets did okay today. Wall Street is betting on Donald Trump. There's no doubt. Wall Street has a lot of faith in Donald Trump. So you should too. But if you listen to the Democratic Party, they have no clue. Their strategy is I hate Trump, I have Trump derangement syndrome, like Stan from Forest Hills, who calls here, and Teddy from Yonkers, those two. They definitely swallowed the I hate Donald Trump syndrome, and they've got it on steroids. But listen to Congressman Seth Moulton, Democrat of Massachusetts. He can't give a Trump a compliment on any side of this war. Take a listen.
From the rhetoric, like cutting through all the rhetoric from both the United States and from Iran, this sort of tough talk, do you have a sense of what is really going on here? And are you afraid of what the consequences might be if the ceasefire ends in 48 hours?
I think that what's really going on here is that Donald Trump has lost his war. And now he's losing the peace as well, because he's essentially given Iran more leverage than they had when this began. I mean, his only victory is that we've hit a lot of targets in Iran. I mean, it sounds like Westmoreland's body counts from Vietnam. But wars are not defined by body counts or targets hit. They're defined by outcomes. And the current outcome is that Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, and they've closed it down. And Trump's only strategy is blockading the blockade. I mean, that's not a naval strategy. I mean, that's like two kids playing no, you're it, no, you're it. And as a result of that, we're stalled in the negotiations because he's not really showing up with any trust or any leverage. There's two things you fundamentally need to do well in a negotiation. One is the basic trust that you can have a negotiation with the other side, and that you can come to some agreement that both sides will not only agree on, but will trust will be implemented. Well, every time Iran has come to the negotiating table before, Trump has bombed them. The one time they signed an agreement with the United States, Trump ripped it up. So he's starting off with in a terrible place to actually get a negotiated agreement. But then on top of that, he's lost leverage because Iran did not close the Strait of Hormuz. The strait was open before this all started. They had not put our Gulf allies in a terrible position, destroying billions of dollars of their infrastructure. And so now Trump is really negotiating from behind with a team of completely amateur negotiators. But at the end of the day, the problem is that there are only two ways that this ends. One is with a negotiated agreement, and the other is by literally taking over the entire country like we did in Iraq. Since nobody wants number two, we've got to find a way to number one. But the president is negotiating from behind right now, and that's why he's lashing out in different directions, not really sure what to do next.
Is anybody going to even buy like an ice cream cone from that guy? No, thanks. That guy, what? I guess he thinks like, Joe Biden was the master negotiator. How has his foreign policy been to you guys? How is the policy of appeasement that we saw with Biden and with Barack Obama and so many others? Oh. If you listen to California Congressman Ro Khanna, he actually said this with a straight face, and I had to share this with all of you guys here on the Rita Cosby Show. He actually said it with a straight face that Obama was a better negotiator than Trump. And this is the guy who brought the pallets of cash in the middle of the night. Billions of dollars, 1.7 actually, a little less than 2, so $1.7 billion. Snuck him in the middle of the night on pallets. I think it was in euros because he didn't want it to come out that it was paid in U.S. cash. So he snuck it in the middle of the night, didn't want to say anything, was buying them off. What do you think Iran did with that $1.7 billion? How many weapons do you think they may have purchased that were used against Americans over all these years and also right now, and against the Israelis and others, and also the other allies? I heard today that Saudi has taken in 1,000 drones from Iran, has been hit with 1,000 drones. Bahrain has been hit by Iran by 500 drones and also missiles. That's a lot from so-called semi-friendly neighbors. I mean, that's why this has changed the whole dynamic in the Middle East. And it just goes to show that if Iran had a nuclear weapon, it would use it. It has no barricades. It has no limits. They'll do whatever they want to do. And this is really scary. Listen to Congressman Ro Khanna, as I mentioned, because he's singing the master negotiator phrase as if it's appropriate, he's saying, for Obama compared to Donald Trump? Is there anybody out there that at this moment in history, when the word was that they were Iran weeks away from a nuclear bomb, that you'd say, yeah, I want Obama to be in charge of the world right now. No, I want Kamala Harris. No, I want Biden. I want Gavin Newsom. Would you want any of those people to be in charge at a time like this where the stakes couldn't be higher? I don't think so. Here is Congressman Ro Khanna. Listen to this one.
Are you suggesting that Obama's leadership on Iran was better? Because under President Obama, there were 14 wire transfers to a, hold on. There were 14 wire transfers to a Swiss account linked to Hezbollah between 2014 and 2016. That was a total of $1.7 billion. The same $1.7 billion he told Congress was frozen Iranian assets. Now, there was a back channel to Tehran through Valerie Jarrett, active for 2012 to 2024. This was after he left office. So, it was almost like a shadow government. He also sent pellets of cash in a plane to Iran. Now, why would you send money to Iran knowing that they are building a nuclear weapon and they are the leading sponsor of terrorism?
Barack Obama was a great statesman who left America much safer. I wouldn't put Donald Trump in the same paragraph.
Barack Obama was a better statesman who left America safer. He didn't even leave the streets safer. Here were these moments. Remember, hands up, don't shoot. That was all a fabrication. Here was a guy, and I'll tell you, when I saw that Barack Obama had been elected, I'm over as a silver lining person. And I thought, okay, an African American, he's going to bridge the gap, and he's going to maybe help those in inner cities. He's going to help those folks who feel marginalized and need to be represented more. He's going to help African Americans, Latinos, everybody. And I thought, okay, look, maybe that will be a wonderful thing if he could do some of those things. He can bridge the gap on racism. Maybe he can help smooth things over. No, he fueled the flames. He absolutely fueled the flames. And you think about what happened with all of those things. Michael Brown, as I brought up, that story wasn't even true, as we know. The hands up, don't shoot. It wasn't even true. But he bought it hook, line, and sinker. What about Henry Louis Gates? Remember Henry Louis Gates, the professor? And he said, I believe Henry Louis Gates over the cops. He was creating division. I mean, this wasn't a bridge builder. This wasn't a guy who even left the streets of America safer, let alone the streets elsewhere around the globe. Boy, are these people are they on something really strong? Because if they are, it's really good stuff. It is working. Because these people will do anything, I believe. They'll say anything to undermine America and President Trump. They want us, if they say it enough times, I guess maybe they're hoping somebody's going to believe it. And of course, you think of Chris Murphy, what he said the other day. There was that post that talked about how about 24 Iranian ships supposedly got through on the Strait of Hormuz. Well, what happened there? It was debunked, first of all. And yet you have Chris Murphy, an American senator, saying awesome. And today, just a few hours ago, he repeated again, it's sarcasm. I was just kidding. That's what he said yesterday. Does anybody believe it? Not if you look at the other things he has said recently. There's a history there, and it's very clear what his intent is. His intent is to undermine President Trump, and as a result, he is undermining America. And that is a disgrace. 1-800-848-9222, and I'll take your calls when we come back here on The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
I wish we could be unchained from a lot of these people. I'm telling you, these Democrats, they are loony. And it's really frightening because they're becoming the mainstream. You think about the phrase Dearborn Democrats. That's the new phrase out there. The Democrats that are willing to sort of accept the crazy politics of Dearborn, Michigan. And that's run by a number of people that really are Islamist. I mean, if you look at the background, they are fanatics. And then you've got this guy running there for the position of senator there in Michigan, Abdul El Sayed, who clearly hates Israel at every single turn. And then he's embracing Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. These are the Dearborn Democrats. And sadly, they're not isolated to Dearborn, Michigan. You see them all over the country. That is a frightening premise. By the way, later on also in the show, we're also going to talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center because, boy, the charges against them are explosive, essentially saying that they were funding hate and that the money, that about $3 million at least that they've discovered so far, according to DOJ, that money went to a whole bunch of different hate groups like the KKK and also the group that essentially organized and sponsored the rally in Charlottesville. And that's why that's interesting, because that's why Joe Biden said, I ran for president because of what President Trump said about Charlottesville. Remember the very fine people, that whole fiasco. We're going to get into that, too, because there's a lot of stuff there. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Henry in New Jersey on line 3. Henry, your thoughts tonight here on the Rita Cosby Show.
Hi, Rita. I don't know what's more pathetic, Trump's handling of this entire situation or your commitment to cheerleading him the whole way.
Actually, Henry, let's get something straight. If I thought he was doing something wrong, I actually would. It's a very difficult situation. I guess you're the expert on Middle East affairs. So do you want to tell me how you would handle it? Because clearly you have a lot more experience than the leader of the free world.
Remember when Trump said he would only accept unconditional surrender?
Right. And by the way, he still has not accepted anything else because he has maintained to that. That's exactly what he said. Henry, if you want to stick around, I'm willing to continue talking with you. We have a hard break, but I'd love to hear more your thoughts since you're clearly such an expert.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Aberdeen, South Dakota, where a man who was severely injured upon being struck by an SUV in a grocery store parking lot was successfully rescued by police as he was trapped underneath the SUV. It's a wild story. Well, thankfully, the man was responsive and still breathing when police arrived on the scene. Yet he was obviously under extreme pain as his leg was broken and he sustained major injuries to his rib cage and more. The officers successfully rescued the man and then rendered immediate aid. He was quickly transported to a local hospital and thankful to be alive. By the way, his leg was indeed broken, as were 10 of his ribs. Ouch. And he is right now still in very critical condition, but is expected to survive. Wow, what a powerful, powerful story. And thank goodness for our men and women in blue. Well, we are talking about President Trump. I'm going to get to General Henry in New Jersey in a moment to hear how he thinks he could do a better job than Donald Trump. But short term, I want to play this very quickly. This is Caroline Leavitt today, and she talked about how these guys that are the now Iranian Navy is a bunch of pirates. This is cut number 5. And this is Caroline Leavitt describing how this bunch of pirates, they were able to take some ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
Does the president view that as a violation of the ceasefire?
No, because these were not U.S. ships. These were not Israeli ships. These were two international vessels. And for the American media, who is sort of blowing this out of proportion to discredit the president's facts that he has completely obliterated Iran's conventional navy, these two ships were taken by speedy gunboats. Iran has gone from having the most lethal navy in the Middle East to now acting like a bunch of pirates. They don't have control over the strait. This is piracy that we are seeing on display. And the naval blockade that the United States has imposed continues to be incredibly effective. And to be clear, the blockade is on ships going to and from Iranian ports. And the point of this is the economic leverage that we maintain over Iran now. While there's a ceasefire with respect to the military and kinetic strikes, Operation Economic Fury continues. And the crux of that is this naval blockade.
Yeah, they still have the naval blockade. And I wanted to play this also. This is General Jack Keane. This is cut number 2. And this is General Jack Keane, who said that the strategy now, he believes, and listen, he talks to the president. They talk a lot about military strategy and else. And here he is describing sort of what President Trump's thinking is right now.
Yeah, well, we're in clearly a preparation for a negotiation phase. President Trump has not put a deadline on it, and he's given the Iranians some rope here to put things together. In my own mind, I think a couple of things are happening. Let's look at it from the Iranians' perspective. What they did is they took control of the Strait of Hormuz, and out of that, a ceasefire was established, and they wanted that ceasefire because they wanted the war to stop, and they got that. And we got to be frank about that. And secondly, they saw negotiations as a result of that. And I think their objective here in the negotiations, Rita and John, is to delay those negotiations as much as possible, extend them out. And why is that? Because they believe the reason they got the ceasefire and stopped the war is they believe the pressure on the president politically and economically got them that. And they think if they delay it longer, there'll be even more pressure on him because he'll be reluctant to pull the trigger and go back into combat operations.
That is indeed the strategy, I believe. Delay, delay, delay. It also gives President Trump time to beef up. The USS Bush carrier group is expected to arrive there in 3 to 5 days. And here is General Jack Keane on what he thinks the Iranians clearly are missing.
I think they're on another path to underestimate the president of the United States, which they have done before. Remember, before the 12-day war began, the attack of Israel on Iran for the first time ever, supported by the United States, a magnificent operation to take down a nuclear enterprise. The president was in negotiations with them over the very same issues we're talking about here, except for the nuclear enterprise had not been destroyed yet. They're familiar with what took those negotiations, and they didn't comply. And what did the president do? He gave them 60 days. On the 61st day, he green-lighted the Israelis to attack. And then he took down their nuclear enterprise around the 10th or 11th day. This is the same President Trump that did that. And we're well into a war as a result of it, much further along than what we were when we began the 12-day war. So I think they are underestimating this president right away.
Let's go back to Henry in New Jersey. Henry, your thoughts. I'll let you finish because we did have a hard break. I apologize, but continue what you would do. I didn't hear your answer.
Well, I wouldn't have gotten myself into this horrible situation. Trump is between a rock and a hard place, and he hasn't figured out yet that he can't bomb his way out of it.
But would you have allowed them to get a nuclear weapon?
No, of course not.
So what would you do? Give them cookies and milk?
Yeah, that's what I would do, Rita. I'd give them cookies and milk. What a stupid comment.
Well, it's from a stupid question. I mean, that's what you get. I'm just telling you, you haven't given me a solution. All you are saying, it's like you got Trump derangement syndrome. You're saying, you're saying, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. So what's your solution? I mean, I'm honestly, I would be curious to hear, because it's a very tough decision. And I don't think somebody should go to war lightly. I agree with you on that. I'm not disputing that this is not, this is a serious deal. But I also think you cannot, and you and I both agree, you can't allow this rogue nation to get a nuclear weapon. So clearly negotiations in the past have not worked with them. They've continued to develop. So, I mean, at some point you have to take some action. So seriously, what would you do?
Regime change needs to come from within, and we missed the opportunity to foster that.
Yeah, during Obama,
Wait,
the Green
Trump,
Revolution.
Right. Well, President Trump says we've achieved regime change. He said that about 10 times. Don't you agree?
I actually don't agree, and I agree with you on that. That I think, clearly,
I'm sure you've been very vocal about that.
I actually have. So maybe you need to get the wax out of your ear. You actually would hear it, because I actually do think. Clearly, who's there now? This is not regime change.
Remember when Trump said he's going to pick the next president for Iran?
I do remember that. I do remember that. By the way, yeah. Henry, it may be a perfect scenario at some point where the people of Iran can rise up, and I agree with you. That would be wonderful if that happens.
One, Rita.
Hold on one second, Henry. Henry, hold on 1 second, please. What I'm saying to you is, if they can rise up, I do believe President Trump might play a role. I'm sure the parties, at least the folks that are trying to rise up, and many of these different groups, there's a whole bunch of different groups, as we know. You've got the former Crown Prince, and you've got, of course, other disparate different groups that are all out there. If they can rally together, they may need President Trump to help them pull it together. But look, I pray we're at that point, and so should you, and so should every American. You seem to be more in the Seth Moulton camp of the, or I should say the Chris Murphy camp than the let's hope for the best camp.
My favorite was on the 4th or 5th day of this war when Trump said, gee, who would have thought that they would close the Strait of Hormuz or attack their Arab neighbors? You know who would have thought that? Every friggin' expert the past 47 years that has studied this thing. But no, Trump can't listen to experts. Trump has to go by his gut, and he has to be led around by Netanyahu and Lindsey Graham. I mean, everyone knows.
You really believe that? You actually think that President Trump, who you just said doesn't listen to anybody, you actually think he's listening to Lindsey Graham and Netanyahu, and that's who's making him decide? I think he listens to a lot of people. And also, let me tell you one other thing, too, that I found interesting, Henry. Katie McFarland, who's the former deputy national security advisor, said she knows for a fact that President Trump was aware of the Strait of Hormuz and what could happen, that he talked about this and had a strategy for it. So, you can recite whatever you want to say. She was actually in the room. I wasn't there and you weren't there. So I tend to think that, you should trust that. And I think that you should hope that he does well, because he clearly had a lot more guts than a lot of past presidents who did nothing. Sent $1.7 billion of cash in the middle of the night. I guess you're okay with that. And listen, we should all be Americans right here and root for the president. And I would say that if Joe Biden or Obama or whoever was in the seat right now, because I want the best for this country. And I hope you do, too, at some point, too, Henry. It's been nice talking to you. Thank you for your general patent strategy. It was really enlightening. Wow. Let's go to Norm in Brooklyn. Norm, please save me.
Well, the one thing I have to say to Henry is have the balls to call under your own name.
Oh, I know. I noticed that. He changes his name like 3 times, 3 times a minute, I should say. As soon as he talked, he was like, okay, he's going to his old Trump derangement syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like his mother is bringing him his sandwich in the basement.
Yeah, when I brought up the cookies and milk, I think it was a sensitive part for his childhood. But go ahead.
Right. Okay, enough about that jackass. Look, basically, people have to have patience here. This is a massive nation. This is a major undertaking. This is not going to happen overnight. Okay. This is not what we did in Grenada, which took 2 weeks. Okay, this is a major undertaking. It's going to take a while. A while could be, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months. It could be a year. Okay, it's going to take a while. This is a major campaign. People have to have patience. I mean, I train people in a Trump building. I'm not going to say which one, but it's one in Manhattan, and they have CNN on in a Trump building. Okay, this is lovely. That this is okay. So in the gym, and it's just a nonstop. But Trump's a weenie. This is the whole point of CNN. And I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't either. And it's scary. And you know what, Norm? It's dangerous, too. And hold on, Norm, because I want to play sort of one of the sort of classic anti-Trump, just like Nate or Kevin or Bob or whatever his real name was, that who just called from New Jersey. I call him Patton for short. But here is Congressman Adam Smith. He was on MS Now. And I couldn't believe that he made this comment. I mean, with a straight face saying, I trust essentially Iran more than I trust America's president.
I would think it quite likely that Iran will not show up and negotiate, because what they've said about where negotiations are at has turned out to be a lot closer to the truth than anything coming out of the White House.
So you believe Iran over the White House?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I would put it exactly the way I just put it.
I mean, Norm, we heard the way you just put it, right, Norm?
Yeah, he's giddy. They're happy. What they need to do is they need to sift through the body bags, okay, of all those slaughtered people, protesters, okay, and still see if they can have that smug little expression on their face. I'm sick of these people. I
am too. I find it really disgraceful. Like it's frightening that if somebody had said one of these comments, Norm, you think about it, a few years ago, you would have gone, what? Mm-hmm. And now it's like every single one of them clearly has these talking points, because the last thing they want is for Trump to be successful and to bring down Iran and bring freedom to a terrorist regime. That's how sad the situation is, that they would rather see the terrorist regime, I think, almost in power, and see Trump do poorly and America do poorly, then say, hey, that was gutsy. That was great. Thank God he was there and did it. I mean, to me, there used to be a time where even if you didn't like the president, you still rooted for the country. And I think these people have become so blind that they're lumping the two together. And the criticism, they don't realize how destructive it is. I keep thinking about the people in Iran playing clips like what we just played, like that clip from Adam Smith. It's being used for propaganda over and over. See, even the people in Iran say, Trump is bad, America's bad. This is terrible what's happening to us. You have to rise up, against anybody who supports America. You have to call out, it's like, it's really scary stuff, Norm. The stakes couldn't be higher, especially for the people in that country.
Don't they recognize when there's genocide? Don't they recognize that? I mean, isn't there unity? I mean, look, I think of when General Patton, when Patton took us revealed what was going on inside the concentration camps. I mean, I know this has nothing to do with today, but it does, because there was unity. There was unity. The world press recognized the great need for what we did, to defeat Nazi Germany. And I don't understand what side are they on? I mean, come on. I mean, screw your hatred for Trump. I mean, you think I love everything the man has done? No, I can't say I love everything the man has done. But the man is doing a right thing right now. And just get with it, man. It's just I don't get it.
I don't either. And it's so troubling, Norm, because I think it's going to get worse, sadly. I'm talking about the rhetoric before it gets better. And that is a really pathetic, horrible place to be. And common sense Americans need to speak out against it, like you and me and Kevin, a.k.a. General Patton. 1-800-848-9222. We'll continue after the break, everybody.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And you guys probably heard about this, especially in New York. A New York City councilman is now under arrest. Police say that Chi Osei, this guy was put in handcuffs this morning in Brooklyn because he was protesting with lots of others, backing a Bed-Stuy resident who was involved in a dispute over a deed of her home. There's video, apparently, of protesters blocking access to the home where authorities were about to execute an eviction. Now, the councilman said he has pushed for an eviction moratorium for homeowners facing deed theft, like it's a big issue. And Mondani has pushed for this issue. But what's unclear is now he's saying, oh, they put their hands all over me, the police. It did get a little heated, it looks like. But it also looks like, according to reports, that this guy was blocking access to the home and authorities were just trying to move everybody so they could get in to the home. So I'm not quite sure why a city councilman thinks it's okay to block police from doing their job. Even if maybe there's a question about the deed, that's something that should be settled outside of blocking law enforcement from coming in and trying to do the job that they were assigned to do. So we'll get details, but already Zoran Mondani seems to be taking the side of the councilman and seems to be questioning police. He said he's going to meet with the NYPD commissioner and talk to her about this matter and describes it as troubling. So let's see where it goes. But it could be another case of Zoran Mondani jumping the gun and not necessarily coming to the support of police. How's that? 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Gail in Pennsylvania. Go ahead, Gail, line 3, your thoughts.
Hi, Rita. I just want to say I think President Trump has really handled the Iran military operation beautifully. I think basically the military part of the bombing, et cetera, is over. I think we're dealing with a skeleton force, and I think the war now is just economic, choking them economically, and I think it's done.
Yeah, I think he's made incredible strides, and they say that they are losing, according to reports around the globe, $450 to $500 million a day, Gail, that they don't have a lot left in the tank. So they're going to run out very soon, and that's why you're seeing these sort of desperate measures. And I applaud him for still trying peace, but also peace through strength.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?